We're sat here with Chef Remer and Chef Warshaw, and they are currently just having a conversation, and you just want to hear what's going on.
It was recording?
I can only record.
Nobody ever gave us a bad review, man. Nobody ever.
Ever. Well, when anyone suggests where to go in Monsey, what is the standard list? Fireside, 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 Fireside.
I can't, I don't like
Beast, no? People say Beast.
Yeah, Beast.
Gets mentioned, but again, I think Alex has done a huge job there.
He has.
As well as what you've done here. You need to be proud of yourself here.
I'm proud of myself.
So, what got you into it?
Into cooking?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great question. Probably the same typical things that I guess everybody got into cooking, you know. It was something to do. You were hungry, you know, and you wanted to eat. And then you're like, oh, this is fun. Let's keep trying new things. You know, making pasta from scratch, drying it on the clothing dryer stuff. You know, I don't remember what it's
Tumble
called.
dryer?
No, like the...
Oh, the rag board?
The thing you dry your clothes on, like you'd hook it like with the...
Clothesline.
Yeah. But it wasn't like outside of the clips. But
right. Blowing in the wind.
Yeah.
No spaghetti trees.
Yeah. But, you know, things like that. I guess, you know, you just... And then it gets into you and you're like, I want to do this more.
Were you cooking at YU?
Not in YU, but at home during YU. I was cooking more and even in high school, you know. Be wasted.
I have noticed that about most chefs.
You know,
There's
that was high
definitely
school. Mixing all the sauces in the fridge.
Right. And vodka, getting drunk. Not cooking. Not getting alcohol at all. No.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. You know, it was pretty badass at one point to be a chef. Now I feel it's a burden. But, yeah, you know.
So when you're... Because sometimes you have those moments where you get like a little low in your work. You know, what keeps you going when you're in the kitchen and it's day to day and you're creating, you've got your menu for the season. What keeps you motivated to keep like pushing that envelope? Because everybody's loving your food and there's like, what stops you from like, okay, we're good right now, but you keep changing and you keep moving and you keep...
I mean, I guess that's just the neurotic nature of all of us, because we never think it's good enough. You know? Would you agree?
Yeah, that and boredom.
Right.
I guess, yeah, to follow what Chef was saying.
I love that you still call him Chef.
Well, of course.
He's Chef.
So, you know,
Chef and Chef.
Of course. So, you know, right. People who are working in kitchens, like you were like, what made you start cooking? So my story is different from chefs because I never really thought about I enjoyed eating, basically. But cooking-wise, I never thought about cooking. I was interested in other things. And but cooking was a good way to earn money when you needed money. So I eventually meandered through short order cooking, you know, bar and grill stuff. I had a fortunate, you know, occurrence where basically I had friends who were chefs and they were working at the Signature Room, and they had new management or new ownership, and so a lot of their talent left, and they were desperate right before the busy season, you know, like a week before Thanksgiving, to bring people on board. So they offered me the chance to interview with the executive chef there, Mark Thomasy. I interviewed with him, you know, because I had at that point maybe 3 years of dishwashing and cooking experience, and he just took a chance and hired me. So I was able to do it, you know, and not only was able to do it, but right away the environment of a brigade-style kitchen was one in which, and I heard Chef Moses Wendell say this.
When you say brigade style kitchen, just explain what that is.
Well, a traditional kitchen, you know, where you have an executive. Well, the Signature was large enough to have an actual executive chef. and then there was a chef de cuisine, and then there was 4 sous chefs, and there was a garde manger, and then underneath those sous chefs was the saucier, and then you had the line cooks, and then the garde manger had, I don't mean garde manger like the station garde manger like we have, but he was the garde manger. He was in charge of 250 seat room for brunch for all the catering. So there was 25 people working in the kitchen. So, and everybody had a specific role. As opposed to shorter cook or some of the ghetto experiences you have where, you go into a pizza shop and, maybe the general manager is telling the guy to mop the bathroom and then afterwards he has to make the pizza dough. So in a brigade style kitchen for me, this is one in which everything is laid out, everybody has a specific role, and you're functioning in order to make service as efficient as possible and as valuable as possible for the owners. That's how I understand the brigade system in America.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, within a week, I was doing 500 covers a night, not on the weekends, on the veg station, which was the plating station. So I did all the fry and I did all the saute, vegetable sides, and I was plating the dishes. Basically, that was the thing about what Chef was saying, is that there's no time to think. You're never bored. You're always intensely involved in what you're doing. So after about 2 weeks, I was basically cutting 2 50-pound bags of onions a day and 2 50-pound, and I was roasting 2 50-pound bags of small red potatoes. Executive chef came up to me and was like, you can change the sides. You can come up with whatever you want. And then I really just took off, because then it was basically like I would go to my sous chef and I would order whatever I wanted to make for that week's, for the sides and everything. And the word that I heard from Chef Moses Wendell was restraints, which is interesting because it's like being frum. In a sense, you're forced into restraints and you have to work within those restraints. And I personally find that structure liberating. Now I don't have to worry about things that are outside of my focus. And in the kitchen, you get to focus on color, texture, smell, flavor. It's like being in an art studio or a music studio, but you're just working with organic materials and cooking them.
So what do you say to people who say that being a chef is not being an artist?
Oh, that's funny. Do you want to remark on that?
I love listening to you talk.
Well, I love listening to Chef talk, and I love eating his food and working with him. But we'll get back to that, because I was thinking about that the other day. Right. I think it's like anything in life, basically. There's a very vast spectrum. If you choose a side, eventually you have to concede, because you could argue that cooking is a craft, which it for sure is. But so is decorative art is a craft. And I think that if you were to call Grant Ackett a craftsman who's just feeding people, you would be missing the boat, because no, he's absolutely an artist, and you're paying a tremendous amount of money to eat his creations. So in the culinary world, there are for sure artists who are chefs, and there are craftsmen who are chefs. But to limit it to one thing or the other, I think is, it's pointless to limit it, because you're able to transcend whatever situation you're in.
Yeah, I guess, and it all has different components, because plating is an art form, whereas the actual creation of a dish is the craft side of it.
Plus, I think it's a little bit deeper. Some of the people are talking about, meaning when you feed people food, and presentation has a lot to do with it, and there are artistic...
Because the first thing you see is what's placed in front. As someone who eats the food and sees the food, the first thing you see is you're looking at it with your eyes first. So therefore there is that consideration at first to make it visually appetizing.
Right, visually appealing. No, so there are artistic elements, but I think with that argument in terms of being art or craft is basically, why are people eating in your restaurant? Like I know at Fireside for sure, I have no problem saying Fireside is a steakhouse, and people come to eat by us because they're hungry. And I get to play around with food and fresh ingredients, I have my own style and all these things, but at the end of the day I have no problem feeding people good, hearty food and good portions. Nobody's going to Alinea because they're hungry. You're only going to Alinea to experience Grant Ackett's creation. That's it. There's no other reason. You're not going there because, oh my gosh, it's 6 o'clock. it's 6 o'clock in the evening. You know, you didn't eat, you ate lunch early, and now you're really famished, so you're gonna go drop $1,200 on 18 quarts tasting pair of wine. You know, that he's absolutely an artist. You know, but it doesn't have to be that way. It's my take on it. I think, like ETC, you're going to eat at ETC to experience Chef Warshaw's creations.
Or insanity, which we love. Let's start there. You say, Seth, is your biggest kitchen success? Like, what would you say if you're standing in the kitchen, like, yeah, this was a good dish, or a good day, or a good service, or a good, like, what would you say sticks out most in your mind?
I don't know if I could pinpoint one thing. I think that the thing that makes me most happy is the dance that happens behind the line. When it just, it's flowing.
The ballet.
Tickets, yeah, you've seen it a million times. The tickets are coming in, orders are being called, food is getting plated, and it's quiet, and it's just moving, and it's going in that direction where just things are just constantly happening. Sauté pans are getting tossed, and they're getting cleaned, and then they're getting moved, and then it's just, and then if you take a step back, you just see everything kind of just, you know, it's a chaotic symphony. It doesn't sound pleasant, but when you put it all into perspective, you hear you pinpoint those sounds of the steak hitting the pan, the flame going up, or, you know, which isn't necessarily the right thing to happen, but, you know, it happens, but it's exciting.
So
you know,
the sprinklers are going off.
You know, it's exciting for a minute, right? You know, where, you know, just that whole thing is happening. You know, everything's coming up together, and the colors are popping, and it's bright, and it's just, it feels right. That's the most exciting part of it. And that doesn't happen one day, and day one. It takes years and years, and the same crew working together for a long time also.
It's
feed
about
off each
putting
other's
right.
energy. Yeah. Like, you can't just throw a new guy in and expect it to jive. You know, it's learning everybody's place, who's calling out what, who's doing what, who, you know, the personalities also.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just getting it right in that kitchen, kind of the right ambience, the right level of people. I mean, I've seen it because I've seen the difference in different people in the kitchen, and now where you are with your line and how it works, and when that ballet happens.
We used to talk about
beautiful. It's
being
beautiful.
a jazz rock band,
yes,
jamming, or that classic.
You've got the right music playing,
symphony,
and everything's going right, and it's just,
you're in the pocket,
and all you can hear is runner
Right.
coming out, and they're coming out, and they're getting the food, and the food's going out.
Yeah. And then you have the other nights that it doesn't happen at all, and it's like loud and chaotic, and just what is going on right now. The ticket machine feels like it's gonna kill you. You know, it does. The noise is just the most insane, painful noise you can imagine at that moment, and you're just like getting worked up, and it's food, and you're like, why am I getting worked up over food? But then you're like, I put everything I have into this, you know, so I gotta pull it back, get it together, and then you can pull out of that sometimes.
No, I've seen that.
You can pull out of that sometimes.
You can have like a slow start to the day, and it's all a bit, and then suddenly the tickets start coming in, and the ballet. It's weird that I find that when you're busiest, sometimes that's when you're kind of in that zone. From an outside perspective, where I see
the hardest nights to be successful are the slowest.
Mm.
Right, for sure. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Could I riff on what you're saying? Yeah. So that's also in terms of, because I had thought initially success with respect to restaurants, or failures with respect to restaurants, but like moment to moment success, I agree with Chef 100%. Basically, it's managing that It's managing that chaos successfully. Meaning, you can drop that's failure. Failure is basically shutting down service and quitting. You know, so I feel like on busy nights, you know, there's multiple times throughout the night when I want to vomit. You know, really, because there's nowhere to go. You know, and like Chef,
and it's all on you.
Right, you know, right. So it's basically like, right, you're basically, you have to lead the charge. When I worked at ETC, you know, Chef was on the line, you know, and that was his place. And at Fireside is my place, you know, because I'm working on the line every night. And, right, you know, you want to throw up, but you have to rescue the other guys first, you know, because those guys, you know, Chef's fortunate. He has a very solid kitchen. You know, my kitchen are all a bunch of green people who had no experience previously. You know, there's not a lot of people up in Monsey who are looking for this kind of work, and so you know, it's difficult. You have to shoulder that burden. So right, when you have the tickets and the machine never stops, you know, and everybody basically, because you know there's not a high level of professionalism. You know, that's what we're trying to build towards. So when you're lacking that type of professionalism, you have to cover every single gap in the line. So, you know, for sure, inside my mind, I'm just telling myself not to quit. You know, not to completely just lose it all. And I guess, with respect to what Chef was saying, that's success for me in those moments where you overcome those feelings and you complete the service successfully.
Sounds good. Thank you. We're going to go to the next one.
What?
No, the booth.
This booth sucks.
So, there's a question. Do you ever actually sit in your dining room?
And do what?
And see what the feel is for your customers? Because you just said that the booth, you didn't actually realise the comfort level of the booth.
Yeah, so actually I
hate being in the dining room.
Yeah.
I think most chefs hate being in the dining room. Or not?
Well, it's context. I saw from Daniel Hum that he recommended eating at your restaurant. So I've eaten at Fireside 3 times, you know, as a customer.
And?
Yeah, well, the experience varies. You know, I mean, for the most part, I'm happy, but there's things that, you know, it's for sure. You know, I mean, the thing for me that I noticed the most is service matters. You know, service issues.
What about when you eat at other people's restaurants? Do you ever go out, like, if you're, as I understand, you know, you're chefs, so therefore you have a standard and a level, like, well, why do I need to go out and pay for food if I'm going to, if you're going to go out to eat, where would you, within, I guess, the kosher world, consider going, like, of the restaurants that are available, that if you weren't eating in your own restaurant, where would you go to eat? What's your kind of bucket list of restaurants? Give me 3.
Kosher restaurants?
Kosher restaurants.
Bucket
We all
list.
know
The
that
places I haven't gone yet. Oh man, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
I want to try them all.
So, but if I said, okay, you've got this amount of time, we've got 3 restaurants to pick, where would you go?
I'd love to go to Izzy's because I like Sorelli a lot. Where else would I go? I mean, I loved going to parties. We've gone.
Yeah. I went to parties the night before it closed.
I wish that was still around.
Just on the cusp. So I was right before party, so it was like...
That was a fantastic
Yeah.
place. Where else would I go? I don't know. I don't really think, I don't want to eat out anymore. If my wife wants to go to a restaurant, I'll go, but I mean, she doesn't usually, and I'm happy to eat, you know.
Who cooks at home?
My wife. Yeah. Sometimes I'll cook, but you know, it's like anything else you do every day. Like,
There's no dishwasher to clean do the dishes.
I'm the dishwasher, actually. I am the dishwasher.
Right.
If you got the right pinnacle,
Chef likes to wash
on.
dishes.
I don't mind washing
Yeah,
dishes.
it's cathartic.
Yeah, I prefer peeling carrots, but rather than washing dishes.
No,
But
that's
some
good to
people
know.
are into washing dishes.
Yeah.
So your sip is soup. What about where would you go, Alex, if you had
Well, I'd like to go back and re-experience Lavana's, you know, because I ate there a bunch of times when I was at YU, but my mind wasn't in the right place to, like, I don't recall it, you know, like I know that I had the venison, the sweetbreads, but like I'd like to go back and re-experience it, you know, sensitive, like I am now. You know, I mean, obviously a great appreciation for Chef and ETC, but
This is bucket list. You've been here.
I was going to say, you're cooking in the kitchen.
I'm saying, obviously, but you know, I've been to Marani and I like that. I like,
Yes.
I like
That's fun. I'd
And
love
he
to
went,
go to.
yeah, oh.
Yeah, that's what I'd love to go
was,
to.
He went for the 9 days menu as well.
Yeah.
I felt Marani was the rare experience where you had fantastic service and a fantastic meal. So that was a fantastic meal there. And Chef David Benway's Cyber Grill was also outstanding. The Beast, I love Chef Moses. There's just no, and Beast Barbecue I'm a big fan of. And but yeah, I guess the thing is I don't. People are always, sometimes in the dining room, people will say, Chef, what's your favorite food to eat? And I like home cooked food. So, right. So like going to a restaurant.
You grill every Friday.
Yeah, I grill every Friday, because I get to sit and cook.
Now, believe me, chef sitting and cooking is not often.
Right. So, but outside of that, no, I like home cooked food. I like the Bubby's challenge. Going to a restaurant is
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, but it's like
Work.
You're so involved in it, it's so intense that I don't know that I trust myself when I go to a place. I'm so sensitive to all the details. Mm-hmm. That was one of the things that Chef Warshaw taught me over at Al, right? Was that you notice that a light bulb's out. You notice that there's a chip in the plate, and I see a chip in the plate, and my first thought is, why didn't the expediter catch that, throw it away? Like you see a chip in the plate, nobody's paying attention to the food that's coming out. So going out to eat can be frustrating sometimes because I don't want to think that way.
Because you see it through different eyes.
Well, but I've had, that's probably what enabled me to become a chef. Because not every cook becomes a chef. But, I've been fortunate to be around people who influence me properly. So, to be honest, it's almost like having perfect pitch, I think, which is you hear things out of tune, so it ruins the listening experience. So I don't really like going to restaurants that much because I don't want to note all the things that I would otherwise be angry at my staff for.
Which is probably why chefs don't go out to restaurants as much.
Right, the seasoning, the sauce wasn't reduced enough, the sear and the gnocchi.
With the idea that I can do it better, I can do it better at home. I can do it at home for myself.
Oh, Mike's Bistro.
No, we don't think that.
I love doing Mike's Bistro.
Because I have a friend who's a chef person, and she's like, where should I go to eat? Because I'm going to be critical.
So I have a big problem for myself with that. I don't go to a restaurant if I'm going to be critical.
Yeah.
I won't go.
I don't want to be critical.
I don't want to be critical. I want to go out. If I'm going out to dinner, it's a rare occasion, and I have absolutely no desire to be in work mode. I want to go and I want to enjoy my dinner. Now,
you want to enjoy the experience.
Just sucks, then it sucks. But you know, but if like I don't want to notice the light bulb, like you're saying. I don't want to notice the chip in the plate.
Right.
I don't want to notice any of those things, and I try to force myself not to. And even if the food isn't up to what I would necessarily want to come out of my kitchen, I don't care because I didn't have to do it.
Right. Yeah.
You didn't have to.
You know, and so if I go to a restaurant, generally I'm happy, but if you're going to be a critic when you go to the restaurant, do everyone a favor and just stay home.
Yeah.
If you're there and you can, like, either the food's coming out slow, like you kind of have an awareness of something must be going on in the kitchen. So I would think that you probably are slightly more sympathetic to what's going on or not.
It depends on what, if we're sitting here like this and there's three of us and there's an empty restaurant and the food's taking a long time, it means everybody's blowing lines in the bathroom. But like, you know, but if
they're not blowing lines, they're like,
or whatever they're doing.
Smoking joints, man.
You know?
The food be coming out really fast and you're like, high and cold.
Well, it might come out fast after.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
You might be fell self.
You know, but if the restaurant's completely packed and, you know, it's gonna, takes time.
Exactly.
It takes time to cook
food.
It
does.
starts raw.
I know.
And it's cooked on your plate.
It's
it
amazing.
might take a few minutes.
That makes, you
And
help
make
me
it
understand too, because it's funny that you had mentioned that, Chef, because that's easy. Service is easy for me. I don't really care if I get bad service. I mean, service is like, right, because if I'm going out, it's the company in a restaurant basically which counts. And I agree with Chef also, I don't want to be critical. That happens accidentally. You know, I notice those things. I don't want to notice them. I don't want to think about it. But service, I don't really. Food takes a long time to come out. I don't really care because I'm not going out. I never go out to eat if I'm rushed. I'll cook for myself. I'll even just get like a snack.
Which is why I blame you for my critical eye.
What do you mean?
Because having sat at good restaurants and seeing what's going on, it's now when I go out to eat. Yes, I am looking at is the plate chipped? Is the cutlery clean? And I don't know if you spoiled me or not. But I and also having grown up within that and knowing how it should be, I think you definitely, when you're within the industry or you have been within that, you see it in a different eye. But at the same time, you've got more of a knowledge of something like, what's going on in the background.
Well, yeah.
When I'm sitting in front of house here, I kind of know what's going on back of the house. So there's a more of an understanding and more of a willingness, I guess, for someone who has a better understanding to understand that, you know, people are human, and things can go wrong and things can go right, and you have to just have patience with it all.
The last thing about restaurants is that you expect a machine-operated service that is the most hands-on, human-controlled business you could find.
Yeah.
Because every single part of your experience is involved with another person. And that person could have gotten into an accident on the way here. And 4 people that you might interact with in a restaurant who work there, the 3 cooks who touched your food that night, right? Your server, the hostess, the busboy, the food runner, you know, 7 people we just listed off, could have all had different experiences that day, and it could all affect the outcome of your dinner or your whatever, you know. And it's just fascinating to me that, you know, people judge so harshly on such a interactive experience, you know, because your server is intimidated by you automatically, but they can't tell you that, they can't show you that. They have to come with confidence. They know the menu perfectly. You know what I mean? They know every recipe the chef created ever.
Absolutely.
You know, there's so many variables to the restaurant experience where, you know, with the human interaction portion of it, that, you know, I think
people
they lose sight.
Forget that you're dealing with human beings.
Yeah, well, you're dealing with servers.
Yes.
We call them servants for a reason.
But they're still humans.
Yeah, maybe.
And 99.9% of the time, they tend to be able to keep it out of the front of house. But sometimes there's going to be that moment.
That's funny. Could I add something to this?
Yeah.
So that's funny because servers. I feel like there's you can have, you know, ideas about the service staff, front of house staff. And I feel like I think it's funny what Chef's saying, but the thing with the server is that basically from our perspective from the kitchen is that you're relying on these people are the last person that you engage with when you eat the food. So that gives them a lot of leverage. So that tension of, you know, feeling disdain sometimes towards the front of the house is mostly because the front there also happens to be the job that's easiest to get in a restaurant. So
and get paid the most to do.
Right, exactly. If you're a super busy restaurant, they're going to make more than everybody else in the restaurant. And if it's slow, then they're going to make less, but the restaurant will close. So it doesn't matter. So basically, and
they're basically your front line. They're the
ones so I think what happens in restaurants.
Kitchens represent.
Right. I think what happens in restaurants is that, you know, when you have a front of the house staff that isn't on the same page as everybody else, so there can be a lot of tension and disdain because, you know, servers can do, you know, I've had servers lift, you know, because we serve our big steaks on a cutting board. You know, I've had servers basically just, you know, lift this heavy cutting board and put it over somebody's head to pass to somebody else. And, you know, in the middle of the service, people don't think about stuff, but, you know, a steak knife falls off of a cutting board or something or a steak falls. I remember the first time I went out into the dining room, like a week after, you know, first time. I'm standing there talking to the person. I'm talking to the customer, and the waiter comes and dumps the water tray right on their lap. You know, right as I'm standing there. So basically, you know, and at the end of the day, that all reflects on us. So, you know, you're sitting there, and now no matter what they eat, that experience is going to be hampered by the fact that, you know, the woman's blouse is wet, you know, and it's cold, it's ice water. So that type of thing, and that brings us back to the whole art crafts thing, which is, you know, you wouldn't imagine Jeffrey Coons, you know, tolerating something like that. So in the food world, though, we have to bring customers into the restaurant, and we have to make enough money to continue to
do it.
Right, exactly. So that being said, you make these concessions, and you're constantly in a battle with, like Chef said, so many people having a hand in what you're doing, that it provides a lot of you know, room for awkward moments, difficult moments, tension.
And how would you rectify that situation if that was brought to your attention as a chef, especially when you have a lot of people, you know, everyone has an opinion about this now. If that kind of situation happens, how do you rectify that
Well,
customer.
that's what Chef was saying. It's a dance.
Yeah.
Basically, we're conductors, and you have to manage that the best you can. And I think that the successful ones are managing it. Basically, you have to know how to respond to it, and then get those people focused and in line.
So even when the customers like het up and stressed and screaming at you, and you have to kind of bring it down to a calmer level, because even though the servers at the front of they're the first port of call, and they are going to initially take that moment of anger from someone who's not happy. When you as a chef, it does filter back into the kitchen, because your server's going to come in and go, this customer, this, that, and the other. How you as a chef would you fix that, especially when you have like an angry customer? To defuse the situation.
You want to take that?
Is that loaded?
I mean, there's so many different ways, but usually it's your server getting screamed at. Or they'll come back into the kitchen and be like, "Oh, this dish is terrible."
The server?
Which at the same
The
time, when
customer will tell the server that this dish is terrible.
and I know you guys take those personally.
Well, of course, because we
Yes.
put everything we had into
Exactly.
it. But the point is that if you think about all the people who loved that dish, and then you had the one moron who didn't, and not necessarily a moron, it could have just sucked that one. It could have been too salty. It could have been cooked wrong. It could have been raw
Just
in the
that
middle.
moment.
It could have been done wrong. Like we said, people.
Yes.
So you just move on. Whatever you buy it for them, just like next ticket.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the only way to diffuse it. You can fight with them, you can, and then you have a forum of 27,000 people screaming on it, which is fine. But in the grand scheme of things, like, let's just get them a new tongue and move on with our night.
There you go. Just keep
A new tongue.
Just new tongue, and keep. I think that's a great way
Or
to
a
start.
new veal testicle dish, whatever it might be.
And just keep it moving on.
I know we'll bring plastic surgery for the tongue, and we'll bring the veal testicles.
I think I like that.
All right.
All right. I'm gonna